We are a company here in the U.S. of passionate golfers that have been in the industry for multiple years. As a fitting company, it would behoove us not to be able to fit everybody. It's just what it would sound like. It's a medieval torture device. And I heard you say it, Greg, and I swear I wanted to grab your tongue. He is one of the smartest guys I know.
I'm your host, Greg Pattison. This is the Fore Interview with Fujikura's Chad Embrey. From Fujikura headquarters in Vista, California, it is Fujikura Sales Manager Chad Embrey. Hey, Chad, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, Chad, let's start with a history lesson today. Why don't you give us some insight on how Fujikura got started in America and some of the revolutionary impacts it's made along the way?
Okay, great. The little history lesson of Fujikura Composites Incorporated. We are a Japanese-based company, as you might be able to tell by the name. At least I hope you would be able to. We started in Japan, I want to say over 100 years ago, as a rubber company. With that, we now have, I want to say, 11 subsidiaries of our Fujikura Japan company. We are one. We are the sporting division. When we first started making graphite shafts, a majority of our business was taking care of OEM customers. So we would have made the RCH shaft, the mass shafts, shafts that were not necessarily branded other than as the OEM had dictated to us. So we came to the U.S. in 1996 to more support the OEM customers. We had a factory here in Vista that we actually did almost 100% of our production for those companies. And so we came as more of a support vehicle for those companies. Now, when we came here, we noticed that there was a giant hole in aftermarket upgrade shafts. So, being the fact that we were already here in the hub of the golfing community in Carlsbad, Vista, California, working with our OEMs very closely, we decided that we would branch off and start making some other products that might be more dialed in for particular players. And so that's when we started our first initial aftermarket product, which was, I want to say, about 1999. And that consisted of a simple program of Vista Pro products, which is Vista Pro 50, 60, 70, 80. And then we had 4 shafts that we brought over from our Japan factory, which was the Pro 95, Speeder 757, SIX, and Pros 3. So it was a simple 8-product aftermarket catalog and support of our OEMs, and that's really what kick-started us into making the aftermarket dynamite shafts we make today.
So, Chad, when you look back on that history of Fujikura, what stands out most to you?
As a Fujikura, I guess, benchmark, when we introduced the Speeder 757 to the marketplace, Speeder 757 was engineered in 1997, and if you think back, I don't know how old you are, Greg. You sound like a young guy, but I'm an old timer now. I'm nearing 50, which is awfully scary and a whole nother blog post on its own. But when you think back to that, in the time of graphite shafts, there wasn't a lot in the marketplace. In fact, club makers are struggling because most of these shafts came in at a $40 retail cost. So if you can imagine, your margins weren't big. You had to do a lot of these things, and there wasn't a lot of choice in the marketplace. So when we brought the Speeder 757 to the market, it uses very exotic materials, and especially at the time, very expensive materials. So they were multi-directional material, multi-access material used in a graphite shaft, which was really the first time it had been done. This shaft in particular went to tour first. We didn't think it was a price point that would sell in the marketplace based on what was already there, but it went to tour, and tour just absolutely gravitated towards it like no other. We were getting tournament wins left and right, and so the demand started happening for the Speeder 757. I remember at the time I was working, and I was in sales, still am, obviously, and I started trying to sell some of these things in the aftermarket, and people would laugh at me saying, you know, you're never going to get that price for a graphite shaft. You know, we sell $40 shafts all day long. But the more that product started winning in tournaments, the more the tour started gravitating towards it. It literally was maybe a year before the waterfall just started happening. We were selling these things. We couldn't keep them in stock, and that really kind of set the industry to the way it is today. And if you notice, there's a lot of companies out there that have $300, $400, $500 plus shafts. So we really kind of set the groundwork for where we are today. And it's not just the price of the shafts. Some shafts will come with, a pretty color with not much technology, and they'll slap a $500 price tag. Fujikura has always been one about technology and charging the customer appropriately to what we pay for it. But at the end of the day, it's given us in this industry a bump to get to these high-performance, dialed in specifically for a specific player, graphite shafts that I think has really just turned the industry into making better golf equipment and playing better golf.
And to step back, I'm not a young guy. I'm right there with you. I'm 47. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I didn't know what I was dealing with, and you always got to be careful, right? It's like calling a woman pregnant when she's not, man. You just don't make that mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's funny. Yeah, that's. Oh, geez. So let's Chad. Let's talk club fitting. Why is it so important for all levels of players to get club fit?
Well, we have been of the mindset since we began this that getting fit is essential, right? Everyone can grab a stick and swing a club and probably make contact with the ball at some point. But if you're serious about the game, even if you're not serious, in all honesty, whoever tees it up on a golf course, no matter how often, no matter how frequent, want to score better. I don't care if you're a 30 handicap. I don't care if you're a +4. We all are trying to get the best score we possibly can. So getting the products that fit your particular swing, and we like to use DNA because everyone's different. Everyone has their own unique swing characteristics. Hard loaders, casters, scoopers. You can go down the list and really name so many different things during a swing that will affect what equipment you're using. And at the end of the day, again, trying to get that lowest score, you need product that fits your swing. I can't tell you how many times I'll peg it up in a tournament with players that maybe are 15, 16 handicaps. They might feel as if they're maybe out of their league playing with some better players, and you look at their equipment and say, well, you're already behind the gun, right? Like you're swinging 80 miles an hour, you got a stiff flex, tip stiff, you can't get the ball off the ground, and you get frustrated and angry, and you're hitting balls OB and in people's houses, and the reality is you could probably save, especially being a 16 to 20 handicapper, 4 or 5 strokes just getting proper equipment. And I mean that all the way through the bag, right? I mean that's getting a putter fitting, that's getting a driver fitting, that's getting a full bag fitting, and getting the proper loft lies, getting the proper shafts, getting the proper flex, even getting the proper head. A lot of guys look at a blade or something and think, oh, that's really sexy. Well, you're an 18 handicap that has a hard time putting the ball in the center of the face. That's not something that's for you. So I guess long-winded story, which I'm capable of doing, getting fit is probably the most important thing that I would say any golfer of any ability can do in order to lower his scores and have a better time on the golf course.
So if you haven't been, so I'll ask you this question. So like you said, you've run into some of those players that are using different stuff or really, out of their league with what they have and need to do something different. Well, let's say they've never been fit, never been adjusted in any way, bought something off eBay, whatever it is. What do you recommend as the next steps, for someone who's never been fit or had their clubs adjusted in any way to do next?
Well, you mentioned eBay, and that's a scary proposition. I always say if it looks too good to be true, then it probably is, right? So guys always want to sell fit, save money. Getting in and spending a couple $100 to get a full bag fitting is essential. So beyond that, you just need to contact a local fitter in your area and bring it in. Whatever it is. Let's say you do buy something off eBay. You have whatever OEM you've purchased, whatever shaft's in there. It looks cool. It's the hottest, latest thing. You feel like you're all dialed up. If you take that to a fitter and just have them take some basic measurements on it, a CPM, a tip stiffness, a loft lie on your driver, you might find out that some of these things are so ill-suited for you, regardless of how cool you think your equipment is, that just by making some subtle tweaks to what you currently have, you could probably save a couple strokes. But even further than that, going through the complete diagnostic and then the complete fitting, you might find that what you just purchased absolutely has zero playability for your particular swing in your particular game. So before I would say you buy any equipment, it really is essential to get into a master club fitter and have him take a look at what you got, and then they can always help kind of walk you down that line of what they might think will play best for you in the long run. And, it goes to say, too, that if you go in as a 16, you get your equipment fit, then you go have some lessons, and you continue to work on your game, that changes. So you need to go in every year, every couple of years to make sure that what you got is still dialed in for your particular game.
Even for me, that's a great point. I actually hadn't been fitted. I had made it to a scratch golfer before I had ever got fit for clubs. I'd try something 1 degree upright or something like that. I would use a lie board to just see if I was making the right path. And like 7 years ago, I went to see Doug Montgomery at Got Golf. That's how I initially got connected with him. And he did just what you said. He's a master club fitter, but he went through and he tested the stuff in my bag. And I had at the time Muscle Black, Titleist blades, Rocket. I had made the switch for the first time. I had a TaylorMade driver for a long time, but went ahead and tried that Rocket Balls driver. And just bought it off, bought a shelf. I was always just the guy that bought something off the shelf and went out and put it in play. And he goes, well, let me test all your stuff. And he takes the shaft of the driver and he comes back and he goes, that thing is basically almost a XXX shaft. Like, however, he's like, this thing is like 7.7 or whatever the number was. He's like, this thing is so wrong. And then he went through like the other bags and he showed me all the difference in where the weights were and all the stuff that was out of spec in my bag. And I'm like, wow, I seem to make this stuff work. What happens if you can put it the right way? And so it's the people that have been playing a lot, but those that don't. Doug did a show with us, and he said they see a lot of benefits from the people that shoot 85 to 95 to make improvements in that zone, because they're just on the cusp, right? They just right there trying to figure it out, and those little changes can help. But that's great feedback. So revolutionary wise, again, you guys have done a ton of things, and getting fit obviously was the most important thing. But you guys have this Enzo system, and you got some stuff going around the future of club fitting. Tell us about that system.
Yeah, that system could revolutionize fitting, graphite shafts, how we play golf, how we get fit. This is something that is on the precipice right now of just blowing doors off everything that we know in the graphite shaft industry. So for years, how we would measure spin, launch, we'd get on a launch monitor, right? And you hit your launch monitor, you get your swing speed, you get your impact location, all this good stuff. But it was all measuring post-impact data. And then a lot of them are just doing mathematical equations because they're taking 2 or 3 pictures and trying to tell you what your ball is doing and why it's doing that post-impact. So we would always assume, it went right so your face was open, or it went left, your face was closed. Basic assumptions that you would think make sense in looking at ball flight. So what Enso does, it's a 3-dimensional motion capture fitting system that measures pre- and post-impact data. And by measuring pre-impact data, we've noticed a lot of I guess ball flight data in the past is not necessarily correct. There's multiple reasons why balls go right. There's multiple reasons why balls go left. And a lot of it is boiled down to shaft and how that shaft is responding during your swing. But if you can't see that data pre-impact, you don't know why post-impact is doing what it's doing. So for us, we've opened up our eyes into the world of how a shaft is creating lead lag, how it's creating toe droop. Is it loading before you're even hitting the ball and then unloading and losing swing speed at impact? We've seen that. We've actually put guys on Enzo, put them in a shaft, whatever shaft they're using, they get up there, they take a couple knocks, and they're losing 12 miles an hour in ball speed because their shaft is actually rebounding away from the ball. It's already loaded, and it's rebounding away from the ball at impact. And it's phenomenal that people have played for many years losing 12 miles an hour ball speed because they don't understand pre-impact what that shaft's doing for you. So our engineers, Alex D., who has just has done a fantastic job with ENSO data, every day is going through this. We're putting players through this, bringing them off the streets, having them come in because we need as many swings as humanly possible. But the end goal in ENSO is to be able to look at your swing, have you take one swing with your driver shaft, one swing, and that could be bad impact, that can be good impact. We no longer need to see you hit the center of the face like an old school with a launch monitor. Well, how'd that one feel? How'd that one feel? Okay, I got that one. One swing, I can tell you what it would have done had you hit in the center of the face, and then I can tell you why you didn't, and then why the ball ended up where it did, and what shaft you should use to correct what you just did and how it responded. So the data we get off this is phenomenal. How we crunch that data in the future is still being evolved. We're making progress every day, but the hope is in the next 5 years, fitting is almost as simple as a phone app where you can take a cut and then ENSO will tell you this is the shaft you need, this is the torque you need, this is the length you need, this is everything you need. Now, I hope we don't put fitters out of business, obviously, but if they get our app, they'll be fine. They'll be able to handle that just all by themselves.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if that was available to your fitters in the market or if you just had to go to beautiful Southern California and right to the headquarters to get it done.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, we tried. This is a system that cost us, I think the cameras alone, they catch, I could be wrong here. I hope I'm not getting quoted, but 7,000 frames per second, which is just way too much data that we see. So we've cut that back, and we use much less than that. So we tried to create a system that we could sell, lease, get club fitters. But when you're talking about $250,000 in cameras, there's not a lot of facilities out there that can fork over a check to the size of $250,000 for just cameras. So that quickly came to an end. We tried to make a little price point version of it, but when you can't see that pre-impact data as crisply as you can in our ENSO system here, it just doesn't do as much good for you. So who knows? In the future, once we're able to streamline, pare down, and get these groupings of swings that we see, we might be able to make some kind of fitting software that everyone would be able to take advantage of, including, obviously, our fitters.
So we always get, during these interviews, I get, guests will, drop a few things that I think people might question or want to go look up online and what that is. And so I'm going to step back for a second. You got to tell the listeners, what is toe droop?
Well, it's contrary to belief, it's not what your grandma has. It's okay. It's not a gout relative. Toe droop is when you're swinging the club and the toe of the club, it's exactly what you think.
Yeah.
The toe of the club is actually dropping away from the golfer. So a shaft and its torsional movement and its length strength will sometimes not be appropriate for how the golfer swings. So a quick story, we had Lucas Glover come in, and he jumped on ENSO, and he had too much toe droop, and it was creating a problem. So our engineer went back, based on his toe droop and based on what he wanted to do, created a shaft that limited the toe droop, and he went out the next week, came in second, and the week after came in first with a shaft that we specifically made for him to combat a problem we were seeing with ENSO. So toe droop is just simply that toe drooping away from you at impact, and it creates a problem. It creates some dispersion problem and some centerness of contact problem.
So gout medicine doesn't work for it. You just got to get on the ENSO system and make it happen. Yeah, that's really cool.
ENSO medicine works. ENSO medicine works.
There you go. ENSO medicine. I like it. So this next segment could be a lengthy one, but obviously I think an important one. You guys have launched the new Pro 115i graphite iron shaft. I worked with Doug at Got Golf to look at these things and make the move. And I didn't make the move because I'm 47 and I'm getting older and I need a shaft. But I told him, he said, you've really got to see these new shafts from Fujikura that have for the irons. And I said, all right, I'll give him a try. He's never led me wrong. And I started hitting them, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, it was just one right after the other. And I told him, I said, well, wait a second. I was a professional cyclist. I raced with Armstrong and the boys from a junior age all the way up to, a full career as a professional. And we left graphite or steel tubes in 1986. Graphite, composites started to become the norm starting in 87. And, by the end of the 80s, everybody was in composites. But we weren't very good at building frames at the time. Maybe like you say, these $40 shafts that people put out there, the bikes were kind of almost like that. It made the transition to aluminum for a while, very stiff, very uncomfortable when you hit the bumps, but light. And then they started in these years getting better as you guys made these shafts that really came to market, that really made an impact. It started to happen in cycling. But when you look at a bicycle, right, and I look at the golf club, I look at the shaft as the frame of a bicycle. If you take the frame of a bicycle and you don't have a frame that fits you right, is the wrong material, flexes in the wrong places, you can have the best components. You can go out and buy the absolute best component to put attached to that frame, right? Whatever the cool marketing thing out that says you need this product, you can put that on that frame. But if it's not fit for you the right way, you'll never get what you want out of that bicycle. Now, vice versa, if you go out and you get the right frame for you, the right composite setup, it's fit right, it flexes in the right points, it's stiff in the right points, it's soft in the right points, whatever it may be, you could put the worst possible components on there, Chad, and you'll do better than you would have done with a bike that doesn't fit you and then put all this best stuff on. So when I thought about that for a second, I said, wow, I'm not taking away from steel shafts, because obviously you guys build great steel shafts and I've used them for years. But I just looked at that for a second and thought, wow, I could get these benefits of graphite. And if they do it, if they do it this way, if I take what I have and I can make that even better, and that's what I saw. So kind of there's my long-winded thing, right? I had a career in sales too. So, guess we could, if you give us enough time, I think Chad and I could go all day, but
I think we're heading that route right now.
We might be. Yeah, we might be. But, so nowadays with what you guys have done, tell us about what you've done, and are graphite shafts and irons now for everybody?
Yeah, this is such a hard one for me, and it goes back to all the stigmas and preconceived ideas and inability to make change as human beings. When graphite first started being made, the carbon material, wasn't nearly as good or consistent as it is nowadays. I mean, if I had to put a number on it, I'd say it's 50 times better than it was back then. It was new. They were making it. It was in demand. They thought, what can we use this for? And they just started wrapping up shafts. So when I tried graphite shafts, years and years and years ago, they were inconsistent. They were less controllable. They had flight problems. They had flyer problems. One out of every 10 you'd hit wouldn't go the distance you thought. So there's consistency problems. But as the years have advanced, as material has advanced, as technology has advanced, as manufacturing processes have advanced, I would say that right now, in terms of consistency, playability, we are equal, if not better, than steel shafts. And I would say that anyone that has the preconceived notion, and I heard you say it, Greg, and I swear I wanted to grab your tongue when you led into this and you said, I'm 47, so I was thinking about No, it's not for it's not for old people. It's for everybody. It's every golfer. Here's what I always think too, and I get so passionate about this because it's something that can extend everyone's career playing golf and enjoying the game we love by a minimum of 10 years. If you're thinking about banging balls with a steel rod on mats, and that's where we're from here, I'm sure the rest of the country enjoys grass, but we're real estate challenged, so we hit off mats. The banging that goes on with your joints is just insane. If you could break that down into some kind of machine that would show your skeleton as you hit and just absolutely ricochet off the ground over and over and over. And if you're a range rat, graphite shafts is a no-brainer. Now, when you pair that with being more consistent, longer, I can control flights better with depending on what shaft I use. You extend the life of your playing career in a game that we all enjoy. It's just an absolute no-brainer. Now, what it takes, unfortunately, is for, let's say, Rory McIlroy to put in a set of Pro 115 I's and go out and win the Masters. as soon as something like that happens, everyone will realize that this whole stigma against iron or steel, graphite iron shafts is just absolutely laughable at this point. So to take it even one step further, in our office, our president, Mr. Dave Schneider, he has qualified for the Buick here in San Diego before. He's made the Mid-Am many times. He is a plus whatever 4. He uses graphite. We have another sales guy that's a plus 3. He uses graphite. So when you're telling me when these guys go out and wax me over and over and over with graphite shafts, and I see them dropping balls from 160 to 110 within 4 feet of the pin over and over and over, that these graphite shafts somehow are not made for every golfer on the planet, I scoff and I laugh and I say, you gotta come around. You gotta come around.
You don't blink twice if it's in your driver, your fairway wood, your hybrid. I mean, nobody even thinks to put a steel shaft in those anymore, right? And it took a little bit of time. And again, you guys set the standard and drove us all there. But, do you foresee the same thing happening in the future with irons, that we're just going to one day look at somebody that walks up to the tee and go, really, you're using steel shafts? Like, okay. Because, if you see somebody with a steel, with a steel shaft in one of those, you're like, what?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's got to happen, right? It's got to happen.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I can't emphasize enough that these are equal better than steel and lengthen a career. So yeah, I hope we get to that point. I got multiple iron shafts, Vista Pro, 40, 50, 60, 70. I have Pro iron shafts in 65, 75, 85, 95, 115. I have metal composite iron shafts that have a thin slice of metal to balance out swing weight in 60, 80, 100, 120. I mean, we make so many options that again, I just think that any player that walks through that door should at least, and owes it to themselves, to test one. Just even if it's a 6-iron, just put one in a 6-iron, take it out, hit that thing. So long-winded, yes, there's no doubt. I hope we get to that point. I'm praying we get to that point for everybody's sake. And obviously, I sell graphite shafts, so I guess it behooves me not to hope for that. But yeah, that would be a great day. And you're right. People go out. You would laugh at someone. Well, not laugh, but you would definitely murmur behind their back if they had a steel shaft in their driver. And people don't blink an eye now. If graphite is consistent and good enough now for the best players in the world in everything but their irons, why isn't it good for their irons? And it comes down to the stigma. Old guys hit them. That's what. Old guys use graphite in their irons.
Well, let's get Rory in on the Enzo system and have him go out and, win the Masters.
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy, Greg, is we try to fit irons out on tour. There's only about 4 guys that play it out there on the big tour.
Yeah. And
these guys are so particular. Few guys will send out iron shafts too, and you don't just send a set. Like, you don't send 8 and have them play with it. They'll put 8 in and say, okay, the 3-iron goes a little high, the 4-iron pulls a little left, the 5, and you're like, come on now. So then you send them 6 more irons, and then they go through those, and then you send them 5 more irons, and they say, I have another set at my beach house I want to. So you end up sending one guy 150 iron shafts for one set of play, which is, again, laughable because I put a set in and I couldn't. I'm saying consistent as the day is long, but that Rory man or a I won't even name the guys that use them, but it's the same thing with driver shafts. I have to send driver shafts, and it's so funny because you watch these guys hit it. I'll sit on the range right behind a Rory and watch him peeling off driver after driver that hit maybe a blanket-sized spot down the range, and he'll be like, yeah, this one just doesn't feel right, and then puts another one in, and this is not my product. And then hit another 30 that land in the exact same spot, and be like, yeah, I just don't feel like this one's working, and then hits another one, and you're like, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing, Roars? I don't understand this, man. But anyway, long-winded again. It's funny the amount of product you have to feed a tour player that feels like maybe he's 1 inch off his game, but I guess they get paid to make that big buck. So anyway.
Yeah, it's. Well, they're looking for the little whatever, the one, the 0.001% or whatever is what they need. But it's funny you say that, standing behind him on the range. Years ago when Tiger was rocking back then, I stood behind him at the Memorial Tournament over in a separate part of the range that I think was really built for Jack to practice and play out of. And it was late day. There's like 8 of us that were back around there. It was this kind of little mellow moment. And there were 4 drivers, in plastic bags laying on the ground. And he is just piping these things like that. This tight little draw. It looks like it's going 280 on a line. It makes just this tight little turn and drops on the blanket, like I imagine you saw with Rourke. And they're one after another. If we had Pro Tracer, I think he hit the line every time. I mean, it was just crazy. And first of all, I look back and go, hey, why don't you do that on the golf course? Then he goes out to the golf course and blows it all over the map. I'm like,
yeah.
But it's just, it's seeing that, and I was witness to that, and it's interesting to watch. And that's, I'm sure exactly he said that's what he's saying, and I'm looking here going, I take every one, like
absolutely.
But it worked for me, and it's worked for other guys, and the. I'm like you. I can put it in now. I notice the subtle differences because I've been, playing enough, and I was able to look at the shafts, and there were a number of different things people do: hard step them, soft step them, tip stiff them. Folks, you can look that up if you want. But and I had done all kinds of different stuff, and this was the first one for me after looking at them, and I tested those 4 combinations, like a soft tip X, a hard step S, all these different, those 4 or 5 different combinations, and the Fujikura shaft, the Pro 115, is actually the first shaft I've ever used stock. Didn't need to do anything to it. I'm using just a stiff shaft 6.0 and did absolutely nothing to it. I mean, it basically came, Chad, right out of the way you guys made it. Didn't need to make any adjustments. I've had butt weight in my irons before. I've had stuff put in the head to try to balance it out, to shoved weight down the bottom. Anything that we could do to get it our the steel shafts to flex the right way. These are the first ones that I got to go, hey, right off the shelf, it works. Now it's not the same for everybody, but I think that speaks to the quality of the product and the ability to say, hey, we can get what you're really looking for. You really want a 6.0 shaft or 5.5 or 6. Whatever it is, we can get it right with this graphite technology the first time. And I think that's what you guys did with it.
That's great. That's great to hear. And yeah, we like to think we can. One more little snippet on those Pro irons is a new technology for us called high-density composite core, and it's a way of moving material more towards the tip section. So again, one of the stigmas with graphite, at least from a club fitter side, was that when they take out steel and put in graphite, the swing weights get so absurd that it's not something that they would do. And in fact, a lot of manufacturers make weighted heads for graphite and weighted heads for steel that are different. Well, the high-density composite core allows us to take out an S300 and put in a 95-gram graphite iron shaft, and they will swing weight to the same, give or take a swing weight point. So it makes it really simple. They're one-length blanks, so inventory is not a huge issue. They swing weight like steel shafts. They play better. They're better for you. It's really a no-brainer. And I think if we can belabor this point any longer, that we might lose a viewer or two. So go out there, try yourself some Pro irons, do yourself a favor, and you'll enjoy them. I guarantee that.
So you guys got some new items, right? So there's 3 products this year. You got the Pro 2.0, the Atmos, which by the way is in my driver too, and the Speeder Evolution 5. Why don't we start with those real quick? Give us a quick rundown. Let's start with the Pro 2.0.
Yeah. So we came out with the Pro, the standard Pro, 3 years ago. It was a softer handle product, but a firmer tip product, so it feels like it gives you a lot of load, but creates a mid-ball flight, lower spin. It was wildly popular for us, but our engineers, in their quest and never-ending quest to perfect something, went through the ENSO system, saw a couple small little flaws, so we came out with the Pro 2.0 this year. The Pro 2.0 is still kind of in that same EI profile, a little softer butt, stiffer mid, stiffer tip. They lowered the torque a little bit. They changed the swing weight a little bit. They made the tip a little bit firmer and came out with the Pro 2.0, and it's just absolutely on fire for us. So the Pro 2.0 comes in a 50, 60, 70-gram driver shaft. It comes in a tour spec, and our tour spec typically are labeled that way because they're just meant for a little bit harder and quicker tempo. But that comes in a 60, 70, 80, and 90. And then we also have the Pro 2.0 Hybrid, which comes in a 60, 70, and 80. So really jacked about that. It's doing well for us. Probably seeing some floating around out there on tour. A couple of guys play it. But we're excited about that product, and it's been a good launch for us.
Nice. How about the Atmos?
The Atmos is something that just continues to amaze, in all honesty. We brought it out, I want to say 2017 out in Palm Springs. It came in a tour spec only, which was 60, 70 gram, and it came out in only S and X. And we really came out with it for kind of a tour audience, but it just caught fire in the aftermarket. It caught fire on tour. We had up to about 17 to 25 in play each week last year on the PGA Tour, not thinking you can get much better than that, but we increased our playability out on tour this year with the Atmos by an increase of about 37 to 48% given per tour. So it just continues to do well out there. So with the Atmos being a tour spec and really meant for the bigger type guys, the harder swingers, we wanted to give the Atmos technology to everybody else. So we created the Atmos Standard, which is in red and blue. The blue is just coming out now, in fact, just launching and just coming into some of the club fitter shop. But it takes all that Atmos technology, the material, and it just soft steps it a little bit and makes it more playable for maybe guys swinging 75 to 95 rather than the 105 plus. Interesting one about this, we wanted to simplify it for tour. They like things simple out there. It's a flighted system by color, so it's a red, which is more of a mid-ball flight, a blue, which is a mid-low, and then the black, which is the low-ball flight. So super stoked that this thing continues to do well for us. We have new launches coming out probably every 6 months using the Atmos technology. Excited about the Atmos Standard Blue that's just coming out. So again, go visit a club fitter, club maker, see what he's got in inventory for you, and give it a test run and see if it's for you.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I mean, those are great shafts. But let's talk now about the thing that started it all. The speeder's on Evolution 5 now.
Yeah, Speeder Evolution 5, man. This one is one of those History Channel makes that you got to just do a history of the speeder. I'm not going to do it for you because, again, I don't want to put everyone to sleep out there. But the speeder just continues to be dominant for us. Obviously made in Japan. It has multiple technologies in it, T1100G, MC technology, metal composite technology, uses some of the most exotic materials, multi-directional materials. Each year, our Japanese engineers, again, not being satisfied, go in and try to retool these things to make them even better than the previous year. So we are on the 5th iteration of the Speeder Evolution. Launches on August 22nd, already getting shipped to some of the club makers and club fitters. And this is a profile that's probably the highest launching profile of the Speeder Evolutions we have currently in stock. So probably a great fairway wood for a little bit better and more accomplished player, and then obviously being able to drop down for the everyday man, getting his driver up for the driver side of it as well. But super excited on that launch. We've had some unique things we do to the cosmetics. I already mentioned the technology, but the cosmetics is a full-length digital print on the shaft. So it's actually got cosmetics on the entire shaft. This one is a blue. The 4 we launched last year is black. The 3's red. So we just coming out with all colors of the rainbow, kind of like a Fruit Loops box, and keep adding technologies to it to make them playable for you.
So the Pro 2.0, the Atmos, the Speeder Evolution 5, the graphite irons, all the other stuff you guys do, you got us covered everywhere, right? There's no miss in the line.
That's our goal. In all honesty, we need, as a fitting company, it would behoove us not to be able to fit everybody. It would almost be misspoken to say we're a fitting company and have someone walk in that I can't fit into one of my products. So yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. We really do have a price point that can fit everyone's budget, and we have a product that can make everyone better. So that's our goal, and we continue to strive and make all those products within that even a little bit better every year we launch them.
Yeah. So to do that, you guys use something called the rack, right? Because you're putting these superior products in everybody's hands. So tell us real quick what that is.
The rack machine is a proprietary Fujikura machine that we created in-house, and it's just what it would sound like. It's a medieval torture device. The rack takes a shaft, and you put it in a cullip at the bottom. You put a moment on it. You start spinning it at a high revolution, and you wait for it to crack. And by putting that in a Weibull curve, by being able to take the information we see, how many revolutions, what our moment is, we can determine how durable that part is going to be. And so we've gotten it down to the point where if we come out with an aftermarket shaft or even an OEM shaft, we throw it in our rack and we can give predictive analysis on the durability or the return rate that they'll see on that particular product. And the beautiful thing about the rack is I want to say that every single club manufacturer now has one at their facility, and they use that for durability testing as well. And a side note to that, back in the day, and I don't know if you know of durability tests, were what they called Canon testing. There's other durability tests that use, but Canon testing was known as kind of the way to do durability testing. And the problem with Canon testing is you load, let's say, 5 shafts into heads, and you simply start firing golf balls at them until they break. And so this process can take a day, maybe 2 days. And the problem with it is when you load in shafts, right, there's 360 degrees of orientation that a shaft could be put in. If one wall side of that shaft is weak, but you don't happen to load that shaft into the driver with that wall facing towards the ball, you don't see a breakage problem. But now when you do assembly, you could have up to a 20% breakage rate on a product because you didn't see it, because you didn't load the shaft in the way that the weakness of the shaft was showing. We had a customer years ago, I won't mention, but they did Canon testing. We gave them our shafts. They didn't see it, that exact scenario. They brought it to market, and they were getting all these returns. And they said, well, you check this out. We brought it back. We realized there was something within the design that unfortunately Canon testing didn't see. Well, if I load that same shaft in the rack, it'll break within 30 revolutions, and we know immediately this is catastrophic. We can't go to market with this thing. So the rack is a super cool machine. I think we have some footage on the website. Hopefully you can put some of that up on yours and show everybody what this machine does. But it's been a lifesaver for us, in all honesty.
Yeah, we'll absolutely get the link to that. It's a pretty impressive piece of equipment. And I'm glad you made the disclaimer. It's not a medieval torture device, though maybe for shafts.
Well, I have put some of my sales guys in there a couple times.
There you
they're
go.
Not hitting their numbers,
there you
Greg,
go.
and,
exactly.
And it works pretty well.
Exactly. You got that. I need your forecast. And we go up. We don't go down. Right. So let's
come
talk
on back
about
here
that.
and look at the rack machine for me, buddy, just for a second.
All right. So let's we've been technical and kind of got into stuff, but let's get back to what all of us players that are in this game, whether we dream about playing as good as Rory or Lucas Glover, these folks that you've worked with, but what are the best players in the game ask for in their Fujikura shafts?
Man, that is such a tough question. They're not dissimilar to the everyday Joe, right? This is going to sound vain, but I swear color in a shaft, I can make probably the best shaft you will ever hit in your life, and you pick your least favorite color, and if I painted that, you'll never play it, right? So as we start off the process of what do the best players look at, if you come out to the tour and you have a shaft that's neon optic tennis ball yellow, doesn't matter. Not one of them are going to hit it. So you have to make a shaft palatable on the outside for a majority of the players. That's why at Fujikura we typically stay a little more conservative with color choices because the tour validates us. And if you make it something that's not friendly to a lot of the players, then you don't stand a chance. Secondarily, obviously, you want the playability in it. Every player is different out there. Some guys use super light stuff. Some guys use super heavy stuff. Like I talked about earlier, it's the DNA of the swing. There's no one thing. You can get Rory, Dustin, Tiger, Justin Rose in a room, and each one of them will want something different in a graphite golf shaft. And that will go for 3-wood, hybrid, driver. These guys change out there more than I change my underwear. Yeah. I've had guys win a tournament, win $1.4 million, and the next week they're playing a different shaft. If I win $1.4 million playing golf, I'm not changing my socks. I'm not changing my pants. I'm not changing my underwear. I'm playing exactly. Yeah. But these guys actually have the bravado to change a graphite shaft. I mean, that's literally how volatile it is out on the PGA Tour. So when you ask, they're all looking for something different. They all want love. They all want you to take care of them. They all want you to fit them on monitors and give them whatever they're looking for.
It sounds like all of us that go to our fitters, right?
Absolutely.
We want love. Show us what we need. You know, I hit it great. Is there something better?
So right?
Exactly.
We're all looking for it.
All right. Well, we'll slowly bring this thing to an end here pretty quick. But we got to ask you before we close here: what don't golfers know about Fujikura that they need to know?
That's another good one. You know, This sounds cliche, and I hope it doesn't, because this is so heartfelt to me that we are a company here in the U.S. of passionate golfers that have been in the industry for multiple years. In fact, I would say our engineering crew has over 60 years of experience in golf. Our sales crew has probably about the same in golf. Our president has I've laid down his playing career. He's been in the golf industry since he was out of college, played at San Diego State. The passion that my group brings to golf and what we do and the craft that we're involved in is second to none in this industry. A lot of my competitors have turn and burn. They get a guy, he's gone in a year, he doesn't even play the sport. At my company, we make it a daily goal to leave our sport better than when we found it. It literally is so ingrained in our group. We play together. We have a couple pops together. We eat together. Our families know each other. It really is a Fujikura family that has one goal, and that's to make better product to have players play better. And you know, I hope, again, that doesn't sound corny, because I believe so strongly in it that's our passion and that's our life.
No, that's great, and it's, you know, when you do your passion and you have the ability to do that, it comes out, and whether it's a product or who you are or whatever you're trying to achieve. Obviously, my passion is telling these type of stories, but you know, I'll tell you what, I pay to play Fujikura, folks. I'm not a paid endorser or get the stuff for free. I buy this product in chat. I'm a Fujikura customer for life. It comes through. They're great products, and I love playing them. And Doug shows me a new one that comes out, and I'll take a swing. Okay, I'll take it. You know, it's just so I just know what it's going to do. So it's good. All right. So you are a busy guy. I'm so happy to be able to get an hour of your time today to get some of these questions and have the listeners hear from you. But just like any golfer, we always need more, right? There's that emergency 9. I got done. Can I have a quick one? But we'll fly through these quick questions, just quick answers. If you give me nine quick questions, and we'll get out of here, and I'll let you get back to building, selling, and playing with the best shafts in the market. All right. So, favorite tour player you've interacted with?
Oh God, that's a tough one. Okay, and we're supposed to be quick here. God, just came from the European Tour. There's a lot of super cool dudes over there. I'm going to say Matt Kuchar.
Nice. Favorite golf destination?
Bandon Dunes.
Ooh, I haven't played there yet. I keep wanting to, and every time I try to make it out, something happens. But I'm on that. That's on my list. All right. So if you get trapped, you know, let's say the island scenario. If you get trapped on one golf course, right? If you're ever trapped on one golf course, what would you want it to be?
That's okay. So let me clarify that one. Is it my favorite course, or is it a style of course?
Favorite course. The course, not the style. The course. This is it. I'm trapped here. This is it. I'm stuck here for the rest of my life. What course you want it to be?
Oh my God.
You can even ones you haven't played, if you know how they are.
Yeah. Well, how would I know that? Okay,
True.
I'm going to go.
True.
I'll pull one out here. Let's go Whistling Straits, the Straits course.
All right. You got to play golf in the wintertime, though, but I'll take it.
Oh, well, no, you didn't say anything about weather being involved. See, that's just, Okay, if we're talking, no, I'll tell you what, it'll give me a break. It'll give me a chance to tune up on my putting and chipping indoors.
There you go. I like it. Favorite after-round drink?
Alcoholic, right? Anything.
Yeah,
no, actually, I'll say
Just
a
bring it to me.
cold beer, or a vodka on the rocks with a lime.
There you go. Caddyshack or tin cup?
Caddyshack.
I ask everybody that question because there's one of the early shows where we go through that, and I make a very embarrassing announcement. But yeah, Caddyshack it is. All right. U.S. Open or the Open?
Oh God, these are so tough. The Open.
Funniest moment on the golf course? And that can be a long one. You need to be short on that one. I realize with that question that might be one we can. Hey, you know what? Let's toss that question out because that's the kind where you can get going. I want to get you back to what you need to do.
No. I can do it in 3 words. Is it G-rated or R-rated show?
Well, it's G-rated because I don't have any sponsors yet. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's you know what? You cut loose. You give us the R-rated version. I want to hear the funniest moment on the golf course.
No. I can't go R-rated. We need to get some sponsors here. I had a buddy that in the middle of the fairway had to I guess empty his bladder. Okay. So as he was emptying his bladder in the middle of the fairway, no trees on this course, so he had to do it. He was kind of doing it next to the cart, just as his camouflage. His buddy, the driver of the cart, took off. The gentleman that was urinating started laughing, and butt peed himself right there in the middle of the fairway. Absolutely shat himself dirty right there. Had to turn around, get into his car, and call it a day right there on 13.
Dear Lord, that is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That's a funny moment there. So, all right, Alex, you travel the world, I know. What do you take with you everywhere you go?
Oh, that's so tough. God, this isn't a funny one. iPad.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know what else.
Look what you can do with that thing. Get you everything you need. Right
everything.
There. Yeah.
When I'm traveling on a plane, I'm watching a movie. When I'm kicking in my hotel room, I'm doing work. Yeah. I can bring it to the course, take some shots. It's a sad statement on the technology that we rely on nowadays. But damn it, I said it. It's out there.
And there you go. So all right, final question here: is Alex D really as smart as he appears on those YouTube videos?
Woo! I shouldn't be pausing on this one, should I?
No.
That's good,
yes,
right?
yes.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. No, he's brilliant. When it comes to golf equipment, in particular shafts and their functionality and their performance and the predictability, he is one of the smartest guys I know.
Well, Chad, thanks again. Time is something you can't get back, and we're really fortunate that you gave us some of yours today. So on behalf of myself and the listeners, thanks again for spending this time with us today, Chad.
Greg, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate what you do, and anything we can do for you in the future, let us know.